Welcome everyone, this is Yvonne Davis, Psychic Tarot Astrologer, and I am back for another look at the midterm election day. And the reason why I'm going to do another reading on that chart is because, well, there are two reasons. One is because another astrologer suggested that to others who are doing readings using the chart of the United States, that they use the constitutional signing chart rather than the 4th of July chart. And I had done my reading using the 4th of July chart, so I decided to try it this other way on the constitutional signing chart. And it's interesting. I think both of them work, but there was some really interesting information that came up with the constitutional signing chart, so I'm going to show you that. And then secondly, someone asked if I would do a reading for Donald Trump's progress chart. And some of you may not understand what a progress chart is, but as I'm showing you the chart, I'll explain a little bit about what that means. So let me start by pulling up the first chart. Alrighty, so this is for election night, and this is the U.S. Constitution signing chart. So let's see here. The first thing I wanted to show you was that there's this opposition, and in fact there's another chart that's where it's even clearer, but you can see here the nodes, the north node is right on the Uranus of the United States constitutional signing chart, and Uranus is squaring that. So I'm actually going to take you back to the morning of election day. Pull up that chart and show you what that looks like. First, let's look at Donald Trump's his progress chart. Okay, so a progress chart is when it's called a day for a year progression. So when you look at someone's life, you can, in fact, I will just pull that chart up for you right now and give you a little bit of an explanation about it. So this is Donald Trump's chart, which actually looks fairly favorable. It's not surprising he won the election. So I'm going to set it for the morning of the election day. So that will be November 6th. And in the morning, there's a direct opposition. So now match it up with that election day chart. Okay, so this is actually for the morning of November 6th in Washington, D.C. The reason why I chose that particular time is because of the fact that we have this exact opposition here. Let's see here. It looks like it's on his Jupiter, but it's not, because it's actually past. It's not lining up exactly, but what I really want you to see here is the Uranus opposition to the moon, because as I was saying, when you have the moon and Uranus in opposition, people's emotions tend to become very explosive. So the moon represents our emotions and our subconscious, and when it's opposite Uranus, things that have been buried explode. And so emotions can be very explosive, very reactive, and hard to predict, very unpredictable. What I found most interesting about this chart in the morning is that you have Venus retrograde, Ceres, which is Persephone's mother, and the moon, which all represent women, opposite Uranus. And Uranus is the planet of unpredictability. It rules things that are shocking, surprising, earthquakes, revolutions, things coming out of the blue, lightning bolts. It represents the lightning bolt, the lightning struck tower in the tarot. It's about exploding things. It turns things upside down. It strikes you out of the blue. You never expect it. It's the planet of unpredictability. So that gave me pause when I first saw that. So the other interesting thing is that it's squaring the nodes exactly. Look at that. The North Node at 0 degrees Leo, 3 minutes, which is on Donald Trump's progressed midheaven. The midheaven rules your public life. So, for example, your career, your status, things like that. And it's not just how it manifests in the public world, although usually it does manifest in the public world, but also can be your life's direction. So that can be spiritual. That can be something that people don't necessarily see. It can be happening behind closed doors, but often it does manifest in a way that you can see it publicly. And the vertex is in his 10th house at this moment, which the 10th house does rule career and public life. Career, fame, public life, social status, all of those things. So it's interesting that the North Node is on his midheaven. So it's clearly going to have some impact. And then opposite that is his progressed natal Ceres. And I've been talking a lot about Ceres in this series of videos. So you may want to go back and look at those videos and see what I've been saying about Ceres, because I don't want to repeat it every single time. So we've got Ceres here and Ceres here, and they're squaring. And we've got the nodes here and Uranus opposite the moon here, and those are squaring. So this is very karmic and will probably lead to significant disruption. But I'm not going to make any precise predictions around this because of the fact that Uranus is the planet of unpredictability. And I'll tell you a little story about what happened with that in the presidential election. So I did a reading for the election day for the presidential election, and I had later realized that I made a mistake. I did it for the first Tuesday, which I think was Tuesday the 1st, and then election day ended up being on the second Tuesday, which was, I believe, the 8th. And so when I did the reading, I used the wrong day accidentally, and I thought Hillary Clinton was going to win. And then when I realized my mistake, which was only weeks away from the election, I did another chart, and what I saw was that whatever was going to happen was, first of all, going to be unpredictable. And secondly, that whoever ended up winning that election, that it was fated to happen. And that was the only thing I could get out of the chart. It was so unpredictable that I thought, there's no way I can see whether it's going to be Clinton or Trump. The only thing I could see for sure was that it was fated. Whoever won and whoever lost, they were fated to have that happen. And we were fated for that as a country as well. And I've been saying that this election cycle has been this presidential administration has been very karmic for the whole country. And I absolutely believe that's true. So I'm going to go back to the charts and show you this again. Very interesting on his progress chart. So this is specifically for the person who requested that I do a chart. I don't know if she just wanted a chart, a reading of his progress chart or on election night. But for me, it's particularly interesting to look at his progress chart on election night. And again, for those who don't know what a progress chart is, basically you take the day, like whatever year it is. He was born in 1946. So let's see, that's 67. 80, I don't know, he's getting pretty old. But you take that many years and you turn them into days. And so this is how many days from his birth. So how many days would be August, no, what is it? I don't know. I don't want to go into the math because for most people, you either know it or you don't. And if you don't know it, you probably, the numbers that we use to get this chart won't make any sense to you anyway. So just understand this. A progress chart is meant to tell you about the person's soul's evolution. So it's another way to understand and predict life events and how their soul is evolving. So the fact that the North Node is on his progressed midheaven opposite Ceres, and that this has been coming up over and over and over again in the series of readings, tells me that there is something very important here, both about his public life and the direction of his evolution and about Ceres. And I still, even to this day, am not 100% sure what Ceres represents. In mythology, Ceres was Persephone's mother, and Persephone was abducted by Pluto, the god of the underworld. He opened up the ground beneath her feet, abducted her, took her down into the underworld, raped her, and made her his wife, and she became the queen of the underworld. And then she had to eat 3 pomegranate seeds in order to be able to come above ground. So there's a lot of interesting information there about mothers and daughters and abusive women, sexual abuse. So, and these themes have been coming up a lot actually in the course of his presidency, even before he became president when he was running for election. So here we have Venus and Ceres and the moon, all representing women opposite Uranus and squaring this. So even though I can't make a specific prediction, mainly because I don't want to jinx it, but even more so, I think that what happens is something that nobody will expect. I mean, I don't think anybody expected what we saw at the last presidential election, where Hillary actually won the popular vote, but lost the electoral vote to Donald Trump. So, and we've been living with the shockwaves ever since. So, okay, so let's go ahead and move now to, I'm going to go take this chart of the election morning, and okay, let's see, yeah, here we go. We got that opposition there, and we've got, now you can see how it's squaring the nodes exactly, and bring that, put it on the chart of the U.S. Constitution signing. Okay, so here's some more interesting stuff you can see. Now you can see this opposition more clearly because it's exact in the morning, and you can see this tight conjunction of Venus retrograde, Ceres, and the moon, all representing women. This is women in general, this is mothers, and this is mothers and women, and also emotions and psychological, subconscious, your subconscious. Opposite Uranus, which is explosive, unpredictable, shock waves, revolutions, and it's squaring the nodes. Exactly. And then here we see the vertex is conjoining the natal vertex of the United States, just a little more than 2 degrees, or which is still considered a conjunction. It's still pretty tight. So, and then you see the nodes here moving into conjunction with Uranus in the natal chart of the United States, and squaring Uranus here and squaring these symbolic women over here. Okay, so now that we've looked at the morning chart, let's go ahead and look at the evening chart. Let's pull that one up. See if this is it. I made 2 charts for, here it is, yes. Okay, so first we'll look at this for the U.S. Constitution signing. Okay, so here now you can see how the nodes have changed signs, and that also is very profound because when something changes signs, and it happens, it's more profound when it's something like we call it an outer planet or something that moves very slowly. And the nodes move very slowly because they take between 18 and 19 years to move around the zodiac. So this is only going to happen maybe once every 19 years or so, that it changes signs here and lands on the Uranus in this chart. So this is only going to happen about once every 19 years. And this Uranus takes 7 years. And so it is also changing signs. It's moving retrograde from Aries from Taurus into Aries, and then it's squaring exactly. So in the morning, it starts out in Taurus, and the north node starts out in Leo, and by the evening it has changed signs to Cancer and is conjunct the Uranus in our United States chart. And Uranus starts out in Taurus and changes signs to Aries by the evening. So we've got two profound influences, cosmic influences, that are changing signs during the election day. This is profoundly disruptive and karmic. So we'll have to see what that brings. I think it's going to have something to do with women. That's the only thing that stands out pretty clearly, is it has something to do with women. And then here we have in the evening the vertex right between the moon and the sun. And this is 7 p.m. in Los Angeles, California, when the polls close for the night. So, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see exactly how Mr. Unpredictable Uranus is going to disrupt the election day and turn things upside down. And again, I'm not going to make any predictions because I don't want to jinx it. And then in the morning, the next morning, Wednesday morning, when we wake up on November 7th, we will have a new moon and a new reality in this country. So we'll have to wait and see what that's going to be. Okay, so now I will do one more chart where I will look at how this lands on Donald Trump's progress chart in the evening. And let's see here. Pretty much the same, not significantly different at this point. Although there was something about Juno that I was looking at. I think really it's because, like I said, it's not lining up quite right here, but you can see that Venus at 27 degrees retrograde would be conjunct Juno, and also this, Ceres at 2753 Libra would be conjunct his progressed Juno at 27 degrees Libra, 29 minutes. So it might be easier to see if I bring it back to the morning chart. I think that one lined up a little bit better, makes it easier to see. So let me close this and get that chart. Okay, yes, this one. And pull it up on Donald Trump's chart again. Okay, it's still not quite lining up, but you can see here Venus at 27 degrees Libra, 14 minutes retrograde, and Ceres at 27 degrees Libra, 38 minutes. Those two are conjunct with, along with the moon, opposite Uranus, and they are conjunct his progressed ascendant and his progressed Juno. So, so that brings three symbolic women into the picture. I mean, four symbolic women into the picture, because Venus is symbolic of women, Ceres is symbolic of mothers, the moon is symbolic of women and mothers, Juno is symbolic of wives, And often she represents abused wives, codependent relationships. So I think it has something to do, whatever's going to happen on election day in the midterms has something to do with women, which is not surprising when you see what's been unfolding. So the last thing I want to do is show you some cards that I pulled to help us get a little bit more information. So I pulled 4 cards because there were 4 symbolic women, and I wanted to see if I could get more information about that. So the first card I pulled at random, I asked for information about Venus. Can you tell me more about who Venus represents? And this card came up, which is clearly a woman. It sort of looks like a woman in prayer. And it's also interesting that the colors are red, white, and blue. And it's like there's this divine light coming down through the chakras to the heart. And so this remember, is Venus, which rules women. And this is in a very profound position on election day and impacting the chart of the United States. So I am hoping that women will be bringing something very good on that day. Then the second card I pulled at random, I asked for more information about Ceres and what that means symbolically. And this is the card I pulled up. Again, this is completely at random, a 64 card deck. It's called Soul Cards 1 by Deborah Koff-Chapin. And this looks to me like a woman, a mother, and a child. Mother and child, which is the symbolism of Ceres. And also notice that this is red, white, and blue. Very interesting. So I think women and mothers will play an important role on election day. And then I asked for a card that represents the moon on election day, and I pulled this card at random. And I thought, when I looked at this card, I thought, for me, it doesn't represent a specific group of people. Rather, it looks like this is emotion. I think there's going to be a lot of anger, which doesn't surprise me because of the Uranus influence. And this would be like the subconscious. So, so that's, people on election day, American electorate on election day, there's going to be a lot of anger and explosive emotions that they're attempting to express in different ways, hopefully through voting, hopefully non-violently. And this is the subconscious. So, the electorate is rising out of this deep ocean of subconscious and expressing a lot of emotion, fiery emotion, probably a lot of anger. And then I asked for a card that represents Juno, and I pulled this card at random, which is interesting because I had pulled this when I did the last reading on the midterm, and I'll have a link to the playlist if you want to see the other videos in the series. And I had said that to me this represented the divisiveness in the United States, and I still believe that's true. I believe that this is our shadow work. So I'm hoping that those of you who are watching these videos, because if you're watching videos regarding tarot and astrology, then you understand that people like Carl Jung, who was a psychologist, he definitely used the tarot and astrology to understand the psyche and karma. He believed in all of those things. And he talked about shadow work. In fact, he may have actually even been the one to coin that term, the shadow. So what the shadow is, it's the disowned parts of ourselves. It's the parts we reject and we don't want to listen to. And that's actually our karma in this country right now, is our divisiveness and our unwillingness to own our shadow, that we're all Americans. It's not good Americans and bad Americans. We're all Americans. We're all expressing our needs and values. And so I think we need to understand that There's no right or wrong here. It's about owning our shadow, that we don't get to disown people and values that we don't like, because they are Americans too, and they vote too. And we can't just ignore that and pretend like it doesn't belong to this country, because it does. It put Donald Trump in power, and we have to own that and find a way to integrate our shadow, so we won't have this kind of divisiveness anymore. So one more thing I want to say about this card, you know, because as I said, this to me looks like a woman with divine energy coming down, and it's red, white, and blue. And I thought, you know, that kind of reminds me of the Statue of Liberty as well, a female who represents liberation. So I'm hoping that with all these feminine elements, that women will play an important role in our liberation and integration. So that's it for today. This stuff is so powerful, it just blows my mind. So I hope you enjoyed that, and as usual, if you have any comments, feel free to leave them in the discussion boxes below. And please click like to this video, share with your friends and family and on social media. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and ring the bell for notifications. And I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.